This. No. At this point of the game, 6:30 should be fine. Just let her know I'll be there.
6:30.
Let her know I'll be there. I gotta talk to a wolf here. I got an appointment with a wolf. A wolf. Where's this wolf from, by the way? A wolf of what? Is he a wolf from somewhere? Mario. Yeah. By the way, today's Mario's birthday. Can everybody say happy birthday, Mario? How old are you today, Mario?
Well, tomorrow I'll be 33.
Tomorrow you're going to be 33 years old.
33.
How old were you when you and I first met?
18 years old.
How old was I when you first met me?
Holy moly, it's 15 years ago.
So I was what?
15 years ago?
15 years ago is what? By the way, I have a guest. Let me give you guys a surprise with what guest I have on here. Let's see if he's on. Can you make the sound of a wolf? What's a wolf sound like? Ow! Ow! See if we got this wolf on here. We're waiting on you. I've sent a request to you. You just got to accept it. Do we have the wolf of Wall Street with us? If we do, please accept our request.
Hey.
Yes. How you doing, Jordan Belfort?
What is up, my friend? What's the latest?
What's the word, man? How you doing in the state of California?
You know, I was in Texas the other day. That's where you are, right?
Yeah, I'm in Dallas.
I was in Dallas, but I should have stopped in and said hello. I was there the other day.
Yeah.
So I had a client need some consulting, so I went down there.
Nice. How was it when you got on the flight in the airport? Were people a little bit weirded out, or were they pretty comfortable?
You know, I'm honestly over the whole thing. Listen, I understand that there's a virus, but it's no deadlier than the flu. And I just think if you're, like, I spoke to my mom today, who's 86. I said, Mom, you need to be very, very careful and you need to be, sheltering in place still until things die down. But, I'm not in the same position as that. I have a really strong immune system and, I probably already had it, to tell you the truth. I was around all these people for so long. Everyone in my office was sick. I didn't get sick, but I had a couple of days with the sniffles maybe, and that's it, I just don't believe in I'm not saying it's not real. I think it's wildly overblown, the whole thing. It's fear-mongering, and I think it's time for everyone to get back to work and resume their lives and be as careful as you want to be. I mean, everyone makes their own decision, and that's my opinion,
But by the way, how is it being treated in the state of California? I'm in Texas. It's slightly different. How's California treating it?
As little as I agree with this whole strategy of social distancing and lockdowns, I've been abiding by it because I'm a citizen of the country and I try to obey the law these days. So I really can't say because I haven't put myself in a position where I've violated it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what people hear stories about people yelling at other people, but I've been staying home and doing what we're supposed to be doing. I've been vocally coming out strongly against the lockdowns, and I think because I believe the economic disaster it's causing is going to cause many more deaths than COVID-19 could or ever would cause. That being said, I'm not going to sit there. I'm not there trying to create a revolution. Although if it got much further, if it goes much further, I would, by the way, because I think that they're really hurting people at this point. I think it's become a political. More of a political issue than anything else. I don't think it's really about saving lives anymore. It's about politics and covering your ass because it turns out you were wrong. Look at Sweden. Sweden is doing just fine. They never locked down. And I've been saying this all along, Pat, and I've come out very strongly. But, I haven't been going out there and, saying screw you to people. So I don't really know if it's any different. I just know that in Texas, it was more easy to talk to people like, yeah, look how this is so ridiculous. I mean, come on, what a joke, right? And I think most people in Texas feel it. I think in California still, it's a very liberal state. I think a lot of people here they're watching MSNBC and CNN, and they're trying to scare the living shit out of Trump to be thrown out of office. And I think that's a big part of it.
It's craziness. I know you're a well-read guy, and you were a science guy and biology guy. Did you ever read the book Corporate Flight that came out in 1982?
I didn't, but it sounds like the book I would love. What's it about?
Oh my gosh, Jordan. So yesterday I'm talking to Bobby Kennedy. He and I did a three-hour interview together. We're sitting out talking about a bunch of different things. And it's coming out tomorrow morning. And he talks about a book he read called in 1982 called Corporate Flight. So I'm called Corporate Flight, the title. I can't really figure out what they're talking about with corporate
outsourcing
flight.
to China, probably, right? Corporate flight, outsourcing to China. Yeah.
So these guys do a study with the data to see what the consequences of each 1% of unemployment going up, how many lives it costs. There's a research they did, Jordan, for each percent that unemployment goes up,
It's a million lives, 37,000 lives,
37,000 per percent. So think about that.
Yeah.
If we go to 3%, that's 105,000 people. If we go up 6%, that's a couple 100,000 people. That means the unemployment is just as effective of taking lives as the coronavirus is.
Yeah, I said a million people. My guess was a million. Probably comes out to a million people will die. That's why I said a million people, because I think that the employment rate, if it's 37,000, we hit 32%. We hit 25%. I mean, I don't know, where is unemployment right now? It's like there's like how many unemployed is there right now? It's crazy, right?
What they're telling us is different. What we really know the numbers, because the numbers are not catching up.
Yeah, well, I think that, the way they calculate unemployment, if people aren't actively searching for jobs, then they don't count them. And also, by the way, it's insane. They created a situation, an unintended consequence is that they made it actually cost effective for someone to remain unemployed. I know people that are making more money on unemployment right now than they ever made in their life working, and that's just insane. Listen, I'm appreciative of what Trump has done with the PPP. I received today, I got a very, very, very large check today from the government for the PPE. But I'm the perfect guy to get that, because I'm going to take that and hire 20 people. Seriously, I already hired 3 people today because I'm expanding my company. I hired back 1 person. I was waiting for this money to come in finally. It was slow coming in. And I was really upset when some of the companies that were taking that money. I thought it was really screwed up. And I'm really glad that like a Shake Shack brought it back and others. But I think a lot of them were embarrassed to bring it back. But, because I was pretty pissed I didn't get that money up front. Because, listen, I'm in the live events business, Patrick. And that aspect of my business was decimated, just decimated. Now, I very quickly pivoted. So I focused on my online. Thankfully, I had more than one source, and now I'm reinvesting and I'm growing the online. I just hired a whole bunch of people now with the PPE. Today I hired 4 people today. Already, I got the PPE this morning. I hired 4 people, right? And at like 8,000 a month, and real salary. So I'm appreciative what the government has done, but I think it could have been done better. I think it was they made the best of a terrible situation. I think it could have been quicker. The money getting there quicker was a problem as well,
What do you think about these guys bailing out the bigger companies? They're too big to fail, constantly bailing those guys. Do you think they should leave them alone, or should they bail them out?
It's a complicated question. I think that just say I'm a big believer in not bailing people out. Okay, but that being said, the reason I think that is it has to do with what you do is you create a situation of heads I win, tails you lose with these companies, where they basically you create this risk where like they say, oh, let's just grow as big as we can, and if we fail, they'll always bail us out, right? So it's sort of there's a very bad paradigm that you create there. So normally, like with the housing bubble, I was very much against bailing out any bank. I was absolutely, because they made their own bed, and I thought it was a very, very, very bad decision. Even though I understand there's other things involved there, but in this case, though, you really can't blame the airlines for what happened. In other words, this is not a moral. They call that a moral hazard. It's a moral hazard to bail people out because they made poor management decisions. These companies right now it's not a moral hazard. It's not their fault. It was a poor political choice to shut down the economy. So they're really not. So I really have to say, in this one instance, I would say that large companies that are getting destroyed, like a Boeing or like this one or that one, it's not a moral hazard situation. They did not do something that created the situation. That's why. So normally, poor management, let them die. Okay, fraud, let them die. But they were essentially, shut down because of a virus. That's not their fault. That being said, there certainly should be things in place that there should be warrants issued, because these companies are going to become very profitable again. I think the government can turn this into a profitable loan, not a gift. And that, I think, is wrong. I think some of this stuff is no strings attached. I mean, there should be strings attached. Not that people can't make money or whatever, but they should have to at least give us warrants as taxpayers so we can make money on the back end, like they did with TARP.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how this decision was made to go with the shutdown. You know, something that was interestingly said yesterday. They said Kennedy said Fauci. Okay, let's just say he's an expert when it comes onto virus. He's not an expert on the economy. He doesn't know what happens if you shut down the economy.
I'll tell you, yeah. You know, here's what happened. I really been very much up on this. Okay, here's my very, very good guess about what happened. I don't believe in all the conspiracies about they're trying to install 5G. I just discount all that as noise. I really do. I just don't think it's true, and it just defies, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so, okay? I don't think Fauci's a bad guy. I don't think he's trying to control the world with Bill Gates and put little microchips in our blood. And it's the whole thing is a conspiracy to make us to accept getting back. I don't believe any of that stuff. I really don't. What I do think is that there was some very, very, very inaccurate studies that came out of England from a guy named Neil Ferguson out of the Lancet or some college of medicine in London. And he made a projection saying that in the United States, without any social distancing, this was in late February, early March, 2 million people would die. The healthcare system would be overwhelmed. 500,000 people would die in Britain. And he had all these terrible doomsday projections. Trump saw that and panicked, rightfully so. If I was the president and I saw a study and everyone in Fauci said, this is what's going to happen, unless something changes right now, 2 million will die because the healthcare system will be overwhelmed. There will be not enough ventilators, not enough protective equipment, and people that could have actually lived and survived will die. So you have to shelter in place to slow down the spread, so not to overwhelm the healthcare system. That was how this started. It was never to try to stop people from catching COVID-19. It was to stop them from all catching it at the same time. That was the story. But within 7 days of that study coming out, Neil Ferguson himself said, oops, it's not 2 million. I was wrong. It's 100,000 people. And then 4 days after that, oops, it's 60,000 people. And half of them would have died anyway the first year. That's how this started. Then you had these schmucks in Seattle, the HMEI, whatever it is, coming up with these bogus projections on top of that. So Trump finds himself in this politically indefensible position. If I don't lock down the country, I'm going to go down as the president that let everybody die. What was he going to do? He had no choice but to succumb. He tried to fight it in the beginning and then was left in this position of like, if there's a 10% chance these numbers are real, I have to stop this from happening. Not that we can stop people from catching the virus, but we got to stop them from all catching it at once because we'll run out of ventilators. That was the whole story. But then when it proved to be that the virus is not that deadly, it's just not. In fact, if you take all the people that have gotten it and didn't know, it's like it's 1/50th is dead. It's like 0.01%. I said this a month ago. It's the flu. It kills people, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? It's no deadlier or just about more or less the same as the flu. Give or take 10% either way of a 0.1% number. It's either 0.9%, 0.5%, not that deadly. So what do? You should lock down, shelter in place old people, immune compromised people, and do what Sweden did. You let the normal people go out and catch it and get it, and you end up getting herd immunity in a couple of months, and that's that. You don't destroy the economy and unleash the paradigm you spoke about, where for every percent unemployment, 37,000 die. In that case, we're going to lose 400,000 lives or more because of this when we didn't save anybody. In other words, the point was never to stop people from dying from COVID-19. It was to stop them from all dying at the same time, because then you couldn't save the ones that could have been saved with ventilators and healthcare. So once this all came out, the mistake I think Trump made, he should have said, you know what, stop. This was an error based on bad data, and it's time to just kind of reverse course. But he found himself, Trump, a little bit of Trump is like he doesn't want to admit defeat ever. And I get that. He's a businessman. And I think he was caught in this spot. He's got the liberal media bashing him every single day, making this worse because they want to trash the economy so Trump doesn't get elected. They don't care what has to happen. To the liberals, the ends justify the means here. If people have to be unemployed and the economy's got to go to fucking hell to get Trump out of office, we're doing the world a favor. And it's very sick when anyone thinks the ends justifies the means, they're capable of anything because they believe they have the moral high ground. God is on their side. Morality doesn't matter what happens, they're right. So that's why we are where we are. That's my opinion.
Do you agree with what Elon Musk said yesterday or 2 days ago, free America now?
Of course I do. Of course I do. But I said this 40 days ago. I was out there. I'll tell you, I went out there in the beginning, and the shit I took. I did a video, and I was really upset one day, and I got about 150,000 views out of it right away. And I was like saying, enough. You got to let this stop. You got to let everyone go back to work. You cannot shut down. It's like 6 weeks ago. And I got 90% of it was absolute hate mail. Like, you are the biggest, you don't value human, you're a greedy motherfucker. And let me just tell you something, Patrick. This has nothing to do with me, mate. I'll always make a living. I wasn't talking about me. I'm okay. I'm always going to make money. I'll have good years. I'll have bad years. I'm always going to be okay. All right? I was talking about the average person is going to be destroyed by this, not me. And people say, oh, you just want to make, I don't want to make more money. I'm fine, okay? But I know, like you're saying, if 37,000 people die for every 1%, how many of those, is probably 10 times many, don't die, but have terrible anxiety, health problems, depression, the amount of marriages that are going to break up because of this. There's so much negative consequences because of a lockdown that the only way it would have made sense is if 2 million people would have died, or else the cure is going to be worse than the medicine. That's what happened. And now, listen, it really remains to be seen at this point is just how bad do things get. And I really don't know, Pat. I don't know, how things, there's so many issues in the supply chain right now. You saw a slight blip of it with oil. When you watch what happens when a supply chain breaks, and all of a sudden there's excess supply for something, and the oil goes to negative $30. I watched that, happen in shock, and then when I thought it through, I realized it was a function of you already knew it was going to happen 2 weeks ago because it was a supply chain. Same thing's happening right now. Let me tell you the next shoe to drop: commercial real estate. Commercial is going to be, mark my words, you're going to watch the value of buildings go to what? Negative zero, be below zero. The value of buildings is going to drop below zero the same way that gasoline dropped below zero temporarily. Mark my words, that commercial space goes below zero, meaning landlords will pay people to actually rent out their spaces for a percentage of sales, or just so it's not shuttered and empty, so other tenants are going to pay.
Why?
Why? Because would you want to walk into a place that has 55% empty, shuttered up, boarded up places, or would you rather go to a center?
Why do you think commercial real estate? I agree with you. I'm just curious to know your argument. Why is commercial real estate next?
Because companies are going to start working from home. No, they're not going to go back to going out. People have realized now. Now, I don't love working from home. I don't love the whole thing, but I've realized now for sure that I can keep 50 or 60% of my staff at home cheaper, just as efficiently, and as long as there's some strong center base, I can do a lot of things from home now. My staff can. So they take that and magnify that around the world. How much office space out there is never going to get released because they get dual purpose, home, office. So there's going to be a massive amount of supply to the point that it'll be over flooding. Now, in addition, you have also the U.S. is a consumer spending-based economy. As consumer spending continues to be crippled by massive unemployment, you're going to get to the point where a lot of these stores simply are not going to reopen. Also, because in this time frame, what else have people learned? They've learned that we can buy all our clothes, our food, and all our medicine. We could go online. We don't need to go to stores. We don't need to do retail shopping out in malls. We can do it from the privacy of our own home. So you're going to have all these stores now that are not going to be able to sustain themselves. You're going to have empty storefronts, and then landlords are going to say, wait a second, there's so much empty space. It looks so terrible. No one wants to come. I'll pay you just to come in here and put your clothes up here and give me a deal. Well, I'll take 8% of sales. You're going to start watching landlords to get tenants back in because they don't want their places empty. It's the same thing as oil. Oversupply. You can go below zero. People will pay you to occupy their places just to pay the taxes or something like that. I believe that's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months.
How about industries that are going to boom? What do you think?
I think online, obviously anything that relates to the world of online delivery. That's why I've completely pivoted now, to massively into online education. Okay, now thankfully I already had done that. Thankfully, and I won't say it wasn't out of a stroke of genius. It was just dumb luck, by the way, that I happened to 2 years ago decide to go into that, and I developed a very big presence online. And I have my online corporate training program, which is really effective for sales. And what that's done is it allowed me to pivot. I still lost a lot of money on this. I do a lot of speaking around the world. That's where a lot of my money comes from. So yes, I took a major hit in that, but I was able to offset that. And I noticed there was a big ratcheting up in my online business, almost simultaneous. And I have not spent a penny in advertising in months. And every day people just come and they buy and they buy and they buy and they buy. No advertising, just all organic. People buy every single day. Very, very strong. And it's made me realize that, that really is, for me, the future for sure. Of course, I can't wait to go back out there and mix with people at live events and stuff. But I do believe it's going to be quite some time before that comes back. I really do. I think that we're looking more like, I would say you're really looking at 2021. I'm kind of writing off maybe September, October, they might a little bit. But they're talking, they don't want, until the election is done, the liberals are going to be destroyed. They're going to be scaring people until they realize that Trump is here to stay and he's going to get reelected. They're going to be trying anything possible to stop the economy from coming back. That's it. They're going to do anything they can to undermine an economic recovery. They want it to be so bad that will take someone that's senile in place of Trump. That's it. And just, I'm not some lifelong Republican. I'm not. Back when I was younger, it was Bill Clinton. It was George Bush. Who cares? Yeah, I'm a Republican, but it didn't matter. Now it's insanity. They have a guy who can't remember his own name. Okay, literally, it's like the craziest thing I've ever seen. That this guy's going to be the president and go toe to toe with China. I mean, come on. His son was getting paid off by China. Let me tell you something. I've never seen a situation with such utter corruption in the media, in the New York Times. It's frightening. What Facebook does, what Google, they take down things that they don't. I cannot believe the Supreme Court is allowing companies like Facebook and Google to decide what gets to be heard and what does not get to be heard. I cannot believe this has not been challenged yet. And it's my fault, part of it, because I created this whole internet. It's my thing. This whole freedom to speak on the internet was based on my case in 1991 and 2 or 3, whatever it was. If you go Google it, Jordan Belfort created the internet. It was actually my thing. It was a ruling about me that started the internet in its current form, believe it or not.
Tell me more about the story, 1992, 1993.
Back before the internet was the internet, it was just starting. There was no real internet. What you had was AOL and CompuServe and these little message boards. And I was the Wolf of Wall Street doing my thing, and some guy was trashing me and my company on message boards online. And there were these chat rooms. It was really early in the game, Pat. We're talking 94, 93, right around there, And they were saying all the shit that I was doing this and that, whatever. They were right, but it didn't matter, right? So I sued them. My partner and I, we sued them, and we won. I won a massive judgment against CompuServe, which was like the AOL. I won. I won a huge judgment against CompuServe, which was like the equivalent of like AOL and Yahoo right now, right? I won. A U.S. senator was on his plane. He was reading about the story how I won, and they went in and Congress passed a law called the Fair Practices Act, which said that digital platforms are not responsible for the things that people say in them. You can Google this. It'll say how the Wolf of Wall Street created the internet. It's actually there's a bunch of articles about it. And they passed the law to overturn my lawsuit, and I didn't get to collect on my judgment because they changed the law. And the law was that internet platforms are not responsible for the content that people put on them. Fair enough. I think that's a good thing, but that's not what's happening now. They're acting now as arbiters of what's right and wrong under the guise of removing fraudulent material. But the problem is, who's to say what's fraudulent and what's not?
So
it doesn't affect me. I've never had something removed as being fraudulent, but I don't like the fact that these two doctors out of California, they had this video removed from Google. How the fuck did that happen? How dare they? Like, how dare Google do that? Like, how dare they? To me, I can't believe this. I'm shocked the Supreme Court wasn't like immediately like, how could this be happening? That's like like an authoritarian regime. Google is. I can't believe it. I don't know what to say even.
Jordan, let me ask you a question though. Say you're running YouTube. I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview that the CEO of YouTube did with ABC 60 Minutes. If you haven't seen it, I'll text it to you after.
I did. No, I saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ABC is frightened of YouTube. And YouTube is trying to sit there and say, okay, I got to make sure I'm also doing the right thing. What content should be off and what content should stay on? Because there's other companies that try to compete with YouTube, and they say we have an open platform. They become a porn site within 2 weeks. Okay,
so I am not saying that there should not be regulation. What I'm saying is there should be regulation. But don't hide behind this law that was created because of me and say you're not responsible what's on your platform. In fact, you are. Facebook should be responsible for what's on their platform, and so should Google, and these should be regulated like utilities. They're not companies, they're utilities. They're no different than TV stations. They're no different than power companies. They need to be heavily, 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 heavily regulated. They're not companies anymore. They're the actual highways and byways of information. They're the utilities. It's the power source. Information is power. They regulate power companies. They regulate nuclear power companies too. These people need to be taken over. They're not. They could many of the operations could be shut off. The ancillary services, in the same way they made Microsoft unbundle Explorer from their core operations. You need to unbundle the platforms from their other operations. And not, how could you have Zuckerberg having control over the entire social network? I mean, how could that be? How could this be allowed to happen? One man is now deciding what can be on when it can't be. No, this needs to be government controlled by the government with the Supreme Court involved. This is a really serious thing to me, Pat, you know? And I'm the least interference of business. I don't believe, you understand? Like, I'm saying these are utilities. These are not companies anymore. They're not real companies. I don't mean the services. They have all these other services, but to regulate what information is out there, that is dangerous. No private company should have that right.
But here's the flip side of it. I'll give you the flip side of it. This is the part that concerns me the most. What concerns me the most is, for many years, liberals controlled the media, longest time, until...
They still do. Well, Fox did some...
Yes, it's not the same as it was before, but until Fox came out and said, we're going to compete with the rest. So if all of pretty much 100% of major social media companies are controlled by
liberals.
Political party, why isn't the other side competing? Are liberals more competitive than Republicans? Are Democrats competitive?
No. It's revenge of the nerds. It's because you have people that the way power structure, okay, the way it works basically is that in the olden days, the people who rose up in power were those who could wield a very heavy sword. People like you, Patrick, okay, you did really well in the old world in the 1600s, in the 700s, when you could, wield a sword and fight hand to hand and take a club and bring the woman back to their cave. You'd be great at that, Patrick. It just so happens you're a smart guy too, okay? But for the most part, you're a thug. You're a big, strapping man that belongs in the army. I think you were in the army, right? Something like that, right? There you go. That meant a lot back in between 1000 AD and 2000 AD. Then all of a sudden it became that, wait a second, the guy who's the biggest guy who was picked last to every sports team, the guy who could never get the girl, all those people now, because it's a digital economy, those people that are complete nerds, I respect them. I'm just giving you a very blunt proof. They have become the most richest, most powerful people in the world because it's no longer, they have the police, the U.S. government to protect you against people, the thugs like you, Pat, and they know that the government, the United States, will protect them against thugs from coming and raping and pillaging their village. That was how smart you are, and the digital people have taken over. So what's happened is now they get super, super rich, and once they are rich, they don't want anyone to feel the pain they felt when they were 12, and they were rejected, and they were picked last, and they didn't get the girl. So they tried to create this artificial playing field now for because they're already rich now. It's easy to be a liberal when you're rich, really fucking easy. You called it a limousine liberal. These people in LA hide behind their fucking gates, okay, and say, open up the country, because they're hiding behind their freaking gates, okay? Let's see how they felt if the people lived on their property, how they feel about opening up the borders to illegal immigrants, okay? So you have this ridiculous paradigm going on now, or the people in power, yeah, it's great, moral high ground. I'm liberal, rah, 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 because I'm already rich and I'm insulated. Let's de-insulate them and see how liberal they are. All right. So that's the people that are, because of the way what makes money now, it's an information world, and the people that are making money are those that are just not the people. They want to rewrite the rules of what it means to be They want you, especially Patrick. You wouldn't say you believed in bullying on my podcast. These were the kids that were bullied. All right. They were bullied, these kids. And we disagreed with that. I didn't agree with that. We don't have to agree on everything, right? But the point is that
daughter, you had an experience with your daughter at 14, 15. I remember that. Yeah.
Right. But you were making a point that was well received. I understood your point you were making. You don't believe she's bullying to the point someone's like going to commit suicide. But I understood you meant that people need to deal with the realities of the world. They're trying to create a world right now where there is no reality in the real world. It's everyone gets a trophy. That's not true. Everyone doesn't get a trophy. If everyone gets a trophy, then you should have all your money, because money is the trophy of adults, right? And you should give back all your money and spread it all around. No one should win the game. You're all communists or socialists, basically. So there's this wild socialist, ideal. And also, it was also from McCarthyism, as bad as it was in some respects. He didn't fully do his job. And while they eliminated a lot of socialists and communists, they didn't get the ones in the educational institutions. And these socialists, they infiltrated the educational institutions of America, and they literally have brainwashed our children. It's been going on for 30 and 40 years, and they won. They won. So now we're sitting saying, wait a second, how did this happen? That's how it happened. They won. They infiltrated this Alinsky type of mentality. They've done all these things. And now Trump was the last. That was the common person who wakes up saying, wait a second, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't seem right. This is not the country I grew up in. What happened to my civil rights? What happened to freedom of speech? Why do I have to agree with a transgender person? And just so you know, I'm the most socially liberal guy on the planet. I don't care who sleeps with who uses what bath. I don't give a shit about anything. But don't legislate to me what I have to accept or not accept. So I think a lot of people really look at this ultra liberal shit, fucking Hollywood scum that are the most self-righteous pigs in the world, self-righteous fucking pigs that it's everything they say, they do the opposite. They're such liars, okay? So self-righteous on everything with global warming, and they're just it's everything. It's disgusting. And people knew that intuitively in their hearts. They felt something wrong, and they voted for Trump. And I don't love a lot of things Trump says, but he's a freaking warrior. And the fact that my president said, how the hell is the post office losing all this money and charging Amazon 1/4 of what they should be? What the fuck? Am I subsidizing Jeff Bezos' paycheck? What the hell is that about? Like, I can't, when I heard that, now maybe Trump was not saying the truth. But if it's true that they're charging Amazon 1/4, what they're losing 400% in every package they ship for Amazon, I am really pissed about that. I'm outraged because Amazon doesn't even pay taxes. How could this be allowed to happen? What is going on? So the country that I grew up in it's been destroyed, basically. It's been destroyed from the inside out through corrupt Congress people, corruption in government, no term limits. There's so much wrong. There's so much wrong. And even the liberals agree with that the thing of no term limits are just utterly disastrous. Professional politicians should not be allowed to even exist. Lobbyists should be thrown out. I mean, there's so much wrong, Patrick, that it's really sad because you know what? I'm always going to do okay, and so will you. That's not who's going to suffer. You and I will do fine. It's the average man and woman, the average person here that suffers, that barely scrapes by and watches how these ultra corporate titans literally steal, just rob them. There's a lot of thievery going on right now. It's like pillaging, raping, the village. The things that were allowed to happen with McKinsey outsourcing jobs to advising to outsource to China. It's crazy, Pat. It's crazy.
So in other words, what you're saying is we got to start a new website called RepublicanNerds.com and start recruiting some Republican nerds.
There are. Peter Thiel's one. Peter Thiel's one.
No doubt about it. But I think
Elon Musk is another. Musk is another. But these are people who are all socially liberal, like me. I am the most socially liberal person you would meet. And I don't care about anything having to do with what a person does with their body, what they believe. I don't care about that. I have no right to, okay? Everyone deserves to be happy and to be able to express who they are, okay? And everyone has the right to be able to condemn them if they want to. Like, that's just like the way it is, okay? And I just don't think it's government's right to step in, and that's where I depart from the liberals, but I agree with the philosophy that everyone deserves happiness and the right to pursue whatever they want, and marry who you want, sleep with who you want, dress the way, who cares? I don't care.
So, but again, going back to it, man, that's the one part. If there's a messaging that I would give is the following. Here's a messaging I got. When guys come up to me and they say, well, it's not fair. Those guys are doing this and these guys are doing this and those guys are doing this. I said, go compete with them. Why don't you go compete with them? Here's what I mean by that. You got a Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's not a lightweight, and he's not afraid of anybody. He's a pretty vocal guy. And there's a lot of guys out there. Why aren't they coming together and deciding to compete and putting take the top 10 industries, whether it's a PayPal model, whether it's a eBay model, whether it's a social media model, whether it's a YouTube model, it's an Amazon model, have them start working together, creating a joint venture, put the funds together, raise the money, start these platforms, start promoting them, competing, because the long term, it's not a 1-year play, 2-year play. 10 years from now, if they decide to shut somebody down on one market, they can't over here because we're running on different guidelines.
The best thing that could ever happen to this world is a replacement for Facebook and Instagram. Google is not a monopoly. They're just not, okay? So I understand, as much as I don't agree with what Google did and YouTube did, they're not a monopoly. They're not, okay? They have a huge market share, and I believe it should be utilities. I still believe what I said, but Facebook is a monopoly. It is an absolute monopoly, all right? And there's an evil monopoly right now that needs to be taken apart, okay? It's one thing if you could separate Facebook and Instagram. That would be enough, by the way. That would be enough to resolve some of the problem. But you cannot have Facebook and Instagram as the same company. It is disgusting. Disgusting. I cannot believe it's been allowed to happen. The amount of payoffs that are going on, I can't even imagine how this has been allowed to happen. They've destroyed, literally destroyed freedom. That one company can now dictate any online success or failure. But how could this be allowed? How could that be allowed? I don't get it. And I think you're right, Pat. I think the best thing in the world that can happen would be for there to be a platform that I would literally jump on it so quickly, and I would literally jump off. I mean, here's the thing. So I use Facebook right now. I use it for my messaging and stuff, and I have a big audience. My life would go on without Facebook or Instagram. It really would. It would go on without. It's a great way for me to communicate with my fan base, and I use it. But I would literally, if there was an alternative, I would hightail it off of there so fast you would not even believe it. And I think you would too, right? I think so many people would. Everyone knows it's not right what's happening. It's just not right. It's not right. It shouldn't be allowed.
JB, what's the first news you read in the morning when you wake up? What sources do you go to?
Fox. I go to Fox News and the New York. I go to Fox News, New York Times, CNN, MSNBC. I go to 4, and then I go online, and then I'll go on Facebook and read all the lies on Facebook, and then I go and I laugh and I check back and I look on Facebook to see how much nonsense is on Facebook. It's 98% lies on Facebook. Not and the way they do it is such a joke. Is that their algorithms only show you what you want to see, so they put you in an echo chamber. Their algorithm says, oh, he likes this stuff, so we'll just show him more and more of what he likes. So you end up getting skewed. They're out to divide. Obviously, they're out to divide and destroy the country. Facebook. It's the most evil place I've ever seen. It's so evil. I really believe that. I think it's evil. I don't know if he meant it to be, but he's obviously really, there's something unwell about the whole way that operates. Like everything from having algorithms that only show you what you want to see. So all you do is hear people who, that creates, all it does is creates massive polarization. That's why we're so spread apart right now. I think we spoke about that study they did with that, where a professor created 2 profiles. And then one started commenting only liberal, commented conservative, and within 30 days, it was like you were looking at a different news. The world was, one person saw one set of news, the other, that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. So to me, I think, I don't think Zuckerberg is a bad guy. I really don't. It's bigger than him. It's like, he's one guy at this point. It's just like this gigantic machine, and he can't possibly be up on everything that's going on. But I think there's a lot of terrible, terrible people that together have created a culture there that's just awful. It's like this, they have too much power. They really have way too much power for anyone to have. And it's got to be a government. It's got to be a government. It's got to be a utility. It's got to be a utility.
So while we're talking about Gates, your concern isn't as much Gates. You're more concerned about Zuck than you are about Gates.
Gates is. I think Bill Gates is a really well-intentioned guy. I don't agree with him at all. I don't agree with Bill Gates. I think he's a really well-intentioned guy. I don't think he's got any evil. My opinion. I think he's a really good person that really gives back, really wants to give back, and really wants to help the world. I just don't agree with the way he's going. In some respects, I don't agree with everything he thinks, but I don't think he's a bad person at all. At all.
Who do you think?
That's just my opinion. Just my opinion.
That's fine. That's what I'm asking. I mean, there's not a right or wrong. I'm just curious about how you the information right now. Who would you say right now is the most powerful people in the world, in your opinion? Who are the most powerful people in the world today?
Zuckerberg and Bezos.
Wow.
Zuckerberg more than anybody, by far.
You put Zuck more than, based on what premise? Which data? How are you?
So he controls basically most money. Advertising is spent. He controls all the ads. All right, all the ability to what can be advertised, what cannot be. He can tip elections like that by what he allows. This guy can control every election everywhere around the world, except in China because his Facebook's not dominant there. But anywhere by gaming news feeds, he can what you see, what you don't see. It's so simple for him to control everything. Which of your friends you could communicate with, what you see in your news feed, who can advertise on my platform, what's considered free, what's hate, what's not, what views are accepted, what's not. How can one man be allowed to decide that? How can one company be allowed to decide that? It's not. I don't think it's his fault. I think he's in an impossible position. The guy. I don't think he's a bad. Like again, when Gates was doing what Gates was doing, I probably would say, oh, he's a twist because he's driving other companies. He was just being the ultimate capitalist, Gates, right? I don't think he was a bad guy. I don't think Zuckerberg has any bad intentions. He's not, what was he? He's not a terrible person. I just think that it's an impossible position for a man to be in. He's tried to run a company and make money. That's what a company is designed to do. But it's gotten to a point where it's become a utility. It's no longer a company, Facebook. This is a way that people it's like the information highway. Who owns the highways in the United States? No one. The public owns the highways. It must be owned by the public. It can't be owned by a man, how people communicate. The same goes with Google. And I think Google is I would put Google in that third thing. The people at Google are equally as, I think though that they have less, maybe I'm naive, okay? But to me, there's a bit less power they have in Google. Like with Zuckerberg, YouTube is one thing, right? YouTube is one thing, but I really believe social media is so big that, and I think it gets bigger and bigger every single, project out 10 years from now to all the kids. They're only going to use that to communicate and find news out. And I really, I think it's such a dangerous thing that's happening right now. And I can't believe it's been allowed to happen. I don't understand. I've lost, I've almost, I hate to say it, but I've almost given up, Patrick. I've really almost given up because at this point in my life, I also have to look out for my own interests. And like, I'm out there, I'm living my life. And like, how many good years? I got 30 years left on this planet, 40 years maybe. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to take down the institute. I mean, I'm really, really upset that it happened. I'm vocal about it. But I'm not going to sit there and start blowing up buildings. Like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, and I come with the added deficit of people will attack my past if I come out. So I know that, all right? So like, I don't even try, or else I'd probably be on every single TV station right now. But because of the Wolf of Wall Street has this double-edged sword, I get knocked down too quickly by competing. If I come out with, I just know what's going on, all right? So, and my fans, but that doesn't affect my business per se because my fans know better, but it's just like stops me from, I think, being able to get to say there's some level I can't penetrate at the top yet. All right. And I'm also getting, I'm getting sick and tired of the government just doing nothing. I'm watching them lie and just lie. And I see things like with this thing about what happened with Flynn. General Flynn, and I'm disgusted. How could they not be in jail, the FBI? I went to jail for lying to the FBI. How come they can lie? Like, I don't get it. Like, these things, it's like I'm living in the Matrix almost. Like, is there something wrong here? Like, is it the not rules of real, like good and bad, right and wrong, justice and injustice, they no longer really apply? What do you think?
I'm just saying you got to keep your eyes open today. For me, a friend of mine called me yesterday from high school. This is a kid I've known since 16 years old. We used to work out when I was bench pressing barely 45 pounds, the bar, when we were skinny and like toothpicks. And he calls me, he says, I've not been watching TV lately. I said, okay, what have you been watching? He says, I've just been watching Valuetainment. I said, okay, what's going on? He says, are you not concerned about the people you're interviewing? I said, what do you mean? He said, Pat, some of the topics you're touching on may not be the best topic to be touching on because it's bringing a lot of attention. People are concerned. Are you not concerned yourself? I said, I'll tell you a couple different things here. For me, number one, I've always, since I was a kid, I've questioned everything. I'm not the naive guy that wants to jump to conclusion both sides. Always, my mother's side, they were communists. My dad's side were imperialists. I'm like, let me hear both of these guys' arguments. Why do you think rich people are bad? Tell me. I want 5 reasons why they're bad. Why do you think poor people are lazy? So I think for me, it's more about watching it very closely and educating yourself and seeing answers. And then at the same time, I got a guy that called me, very interesting guy. You know who this guy is. I'm just not going to mention it for his own protection. He calls me, says, hey, I'm in Hollywood, and this is a very good friend, and he's very, very well known. He's done good for himself. He's been as one of the best in his industry. And he says, man, I'm trying to do this thing in Hollywood. I'm trying to get some opportunities here. But, I'm a supporter of what's going on with the economy and what this person did and what that person did. And one of my friends called me the other day with politics and Trump and all this other stuff. What do I do? I said, do you have 10 million in the bank? He said, no. I said, you don't have money in the bank? He said, no. I said, you want to get into Hollywood? I do. I said, I wouldn't talk until I had 10 million in the bank. He said, seriously? I said, what advice do you want me to give you? If you don't have money, you will be kicked out of the industry, especially in that industry you're going to. You can't just sit there and say, oh, I got a message. I'm going to go out there and do this. Fine. But just so you know, if you go that route, you're going to be in that route for a long time. The biggest thing I'm telling people nowadays is if you want to be able to have a loud voice and not be afraid of what people are going to be saying to you, make sure you protect your money quickly. Go get your money in place and lock yourself up. Then at that time, if you feel a need to want to make an opinion and kind of share some of your belief system, do so. Yesterday, I've always been enamored by the Kennedy family, always. I've always been curious about this Joseph Kennedy guy. I've always been, I'm a Series 7 guy. You and I, we were in the industry. You were doing what you were doing. I was with Morgan. But I've always been curious about Joseph Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, how this family was raised. So yesterday I'm talking to this guy and I say to Bobby, and I say, hey, you got a strong position with vaccine. I said, well, let me tell you what your family said. They wrote an open letter to you. He says, really? I said, yeah. I says, well, I know that open letter. So I read the open letter to him. It says, RFK, we love you, but we disagree with you tremendously. So I said, what do you think about your own family disagreeing with you? His answer was powerful. What he says, JB, powerful. What? He says, Patrick, you have to realize the Kennedy family has 105 kids. He says, when I was a kid, a baby, and I would come home, my parents had a rule. Every night during dinner, my mom and dad would ask us questions and they would force us to debate each other to the point of arguing. I said, elaborate. He said, my dad would say, do you think LSD is good for you? Do you think every kid should test LSD? What do you think about fascism in Italy? What do you think about communism? What do you think about rich people? You think rich people should give their money back? And they would bring up a topic and everybody would debate. And this guy ends up being an environmental lawyer, and obviously he goes out there and does what he does with climate change, whether you agree with him or not. But the point is, some families want to push the envelope. And if you want to be somebody that's, you know, going and playing it low-key and safe, it's probably not a good idea to make a lot of noise. There's two places to be low-key. One, get a regular job, just go make a living, get a nice apartment, don't make a lot of noise, follow all the rules, whatever the media tells you, whatever the news tells you, whatever everybody tells you, make 60, 70, 80 grand a year, live a safe life. That's okay, you can do that. Or go make your money, make your tens of millions, go away from everybody, live your nice, luxurious life, and don't make a lot of noise. Then there's the crazies. The crazies can't stay quiet. And I think sometimes the world uses weird people to make some noise. And I know you said earlier, you said every time you come up and say something, people use your past and they say, well, you know, what about you and in the past and what you did? Sometimes a guy like you needs to be more vocal because you can go and talk about experiences that you've had
right.
that you can't.
And I have been, and I have been, by the way.
I know you
I have been. Yeah, I have been. I've been very vocal. Yeah, and I love that, you know, because I was like that with my family about debating things, and I think it's good that there's different points of view. I think the problem is right now is that the day of arguing based on logic is over. All the liberals will do is it all becomes emotion. They just label you as being racist, not caring about human life, not caring about the planet. They have this perceived moral high ground that trumps everything. It doesn't matter what you say anymore. And I don't mean all liberals, but I watch TV and I'm just like, the reason I watch it is that I want to stay informed. I won't just watch Fox News or OAN. I won't do it because then I'm going to get in an echo chamber myself. I want to see what they say. And some of the shit that they say is just so shocking and obviously not true and obviously self-serving. I will say this about Hannity. He is the first one to admit, he goes, I am not a journalist. I am an opinion show. Like, this is like, you know, he says it. Like, this is my opinion. It's not fact. It's my opinion. And then he tries to weave in his facts. But the point is, at least he says it's not. But what's happening right now on CNN is they're actually acting as if they're a news agency. They're not a news agency at all. It's like 24-hour opinionated, and that's okay, by the way. But they should say, hey, the best opinions that fit the print. Like, don't say it's news anymore. It's not news, what they have. It's a joke. It's a total joke. And what that does, and the sad thing is that it forces Trump to act like an asshole sometimes because he has to, because he's almost like if someone pushes your back to the wall that intensely every single day, then you end up having to, and I'm not saying he's a perfect guy because he's not, okay? But I can only imagine what I'd be like if I was being attacked every second of every single day, no matter what I did, and people were just lying about me and they accuse me of shit. It's just like crazy. Like they're saying that this is his fault, coronavirus. Like I watched Nancy Pelosi, like she's being shown a clip of her in Chinatown. Come to Chinatown, it's safe, nothing. Oh, stop the crime. And after Trump had already had the travel ban, and she said it was racist, the travel ban, and now she's saying that Trump didn't act soon enough. And they showed her the clip, and she's like, oh, no, yeah, no, and she just didn't, as if like, I'm like, wait, no, but Nancy, I saw it. We all saw it. Like, We know you're lying and you're full of shit. What are you talking about? Like, you're just lying through the camera and no one calls around on it. Like, no one just says, Nancy Pelosi, you're a liar. You can't, listen, I'm not saying Trump couldn't have done more, but you can't say that because you were even worse. And by the way, I'm not even saying that you were wrong, by the way. How about this? Based on the information you had at that moment, you believed, I'm sure you were not trying to hurt people by having them come to Chinatown. I believe your intentions were pure. Yes, come to Chinatown, it's safe, don't worry about it, right? But you were wrong. You didn't have the information. But don't try to then rewrite history and say you were ahead of Trump in the it's not safe thing. That's what bothers me. Not that she did something wrong by going to Chinatown. There was nothing wrong with that. She was doing what any politician would do. But then don't try to just lie about it. It's crazy. It's like you're living in an alternative universe.
But do you think any of these things are new? Like, meaning all this manipulation you think is new, or it's been going on forever?
It's much more intense now because everything is recorded. So you get caught all the time.
That's great, though.
So yeah, it is. But what's happening is that you're now able to see. No one gets away with anything. Everything is out there. Every little thing is analyzed. If someone posts something for a split second and then takes it down, oops, too late.
So let me ask you this, though. Who's getting pushed and bullied more? Are Democrats bullying Republicans, or Republicans bullying Democrats more?
Oh, it's Democrats bully Republicans.
You know what that means, though.
They're the biggest pussies in the world, Republicans.
But you know what that means,
and I'm a Republican. Though. We are the worst. I mean, the fact that we allow this to happen is just absolutely shocking. I always say, well, I guess the Republicans, though, at the end of the day, they got the guns, so it really comes down to it. They're going to win, but I don't think that's really right. I mean, because, I don't have a gun. But I really am shocked the way the Republicans allow themselves to get pushed around by that. It's like almost insane. It's sad.
But if you look at anybody that is in UFC, almost anybody that's in UFC, and you ask them, why'd you become a fighter? They will typically tell you what happened.
I didn't want to be pushed around anymore.
Somebody bullied me, and I didn't want to push around them. So the strength to me is on the opposite side of the Democrats. I don't think they're making themselves tougher, because when every single news station favors you, you don't become stronger. You don't have to debate. Everywhere you go, they agree with you. I think there's an underground of leaders being developed that we haven't seen yet. I think the next 5 to 10 years, the movement's going to be so amazing of leaders being rising up. People going to realize maybe we pushed a little too hard. That's what I foresee taking place.
What do you mean? Mean on that more conservative libertarian voices will rise up?
100. You cannot bully people like this for too long. You can't do that. People are not going to take it for too long. But most people are tolerant.
Like for instance, like a Candace Owens, would you say?
But you're going to see that times 1,000. Like, not just one. You're going to see 1,000 of them. You're going to see 10,000 of them. You can't bully a community for too long.
I sincerely hope you're right, Patrick, because I will tell you, because I'm literally at my wit's end. I feel like almost like sometimes I feel like the last man standing.
I know.
Because I am very vocal about, like, I'll complain right now because we're just shooting the shit. I'm very vocal about my views, and I take a lot of shit for it online. I don't really care about that because it's like my business and my online doesn't really mesh much. I can say what I want, People, I'm lucky I have a program that's really works well by Salesforce. So people buy these and they hate me because it works, right? But the point is that I really hope you're right. I think the one danger is that at a certain point, if the people that control the infrastructure, meaning the pipes, the information highway, if it gets the way it is right now, it's so skewed to the liberal side of the equation that that you're right, and you're right on one side. You're right. It's forcing us to get tougher and tougher, but they're shutting content. They're removing free speech.
It's all right. Let me tell you why I think it's all right, Jordan. I'm telling you this from a perspective of knowing the following. Say somebody's evil. Say say Pelosi's evil. Say any of these people are evil. Let's just play that card. Say they're evil, right? She's already there, or she's here waiting for me. It's all right. It's just tell her in 5 minutes. We'll go.
I got to go in 5 minutes too. So
yeah, so that's good. So let's just say they're evil. Let's say hypothetically they're evil. How long if they're evil to the opposition, don't you think they're evil, period, or to the people that they work with on a daily basis, to their supporting cast? If you eventually stay like that and you're like that to everybody, you eventually become like that to your own family and to the people around you. And when you do that to your own camp, the worst kind of opposition you turn is those who were once supporters of you, and they become the biggest enemies of yours. That's exactly what's going to happen. You cannot bully people for too long. No way in the world. I'm a guy that grew up in Iran, and I lived in Iran for 10 years. We were constantly being bullied, and people would say a lot of different things, well, here's what's going to happen. And I'm a guy that grew up in a family where my dad, who helped a lot of guys, when my parents got a divorce, I went to a Christmas party one time, and the family that we were at, those are the ones that were the uppity and high mighty, and they're doctors, and I'm 25, 26 years old. At that time, I'm barely making six figures. I'm not doing anything crazy with my life. And my dad's working at a 99-cent store. So we're not like, everybody looks at us like, oh, the poor Bet David family. Jordan, the looks they gave me, I remember it till today. And I said, you will never bully my dad. You can bully me. I'm tolerant. I'm okay with that. You cross my dad, you have a permanent enemy for life. The more they bully, the bigger and stronger the opposition is going to be. So
let me ask you a question.
I just want to tell you, the more and more you're talking, believe me, just as much as you got 80% of your guys that may be getting pissed off at you, there's 20% of them that are underground that just don't want to say anything because they're non-controversial.
Pat, let me ask you, by the way, just so you know, in the last, I made a series of 4 posts on COVID. It went from 90% hating me to 90% loving me by the end.
That's the game.
But also, one more point. Why is someone working on an alternative platform right now to Facebook?
Yes.
Who?
I can't tell you, but yes.
But it needs to happen.
Yes, and yes, we can talk offline, but the answer is yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that.
It's a very powerful.
I will
community.
go on the world. I will literally donate every penny I make when I retire in a few more years, and I will literally support that platform with my last dying breath to write what's gone on, what has happened.
They can't do this for too long, man.
No.
You can't bully people for too long. You're going to piss them off.
Yeah.
And then they're permanent enemies. Anyways, brother, last question before we wrap up. When's the last time you watched Wolf of Wall Street?
6 months ago with my girlfriend. We watched it.
6 months ago. So I'm telling you, every time I watch that movie, I think about my first time I took my dad, and we watch it at the LA at the theater. My dad's like, I want to go watch this Wolf of Wall Street. I said, you want to watch Wolf of Wall Street? He said, Patrick, it's a crazy story. We have to go watch it.
I like it like an 85-year-old grandma watching. Oh, he's a bad boy. Let's talk soon, buddy. All right,
buddy. Take care, man.
Okay,
bye-bye.